Welcome to Class 13. This is the notes for the class that I'll be covering. I will be using the presentation right here. The reason I didn't automate this presentation is because I like to update with the latest sales figures. So let me go right here and I will show you the video of my presentation. So first of all, it's e-commerce or e-business. It's not just selling on the web. There's more to it, although a major component is actually selling or the transfer of goods. Now, just a little bit of historical perspective about what's going on is it took 38 years for the telephone to get to 50 million, whereas television 13, internet 4, and Facebook took 6 months to get to 50 million people. So that kind of shows you the power and the penetration of Facebook. Now, these numbers right here are kind of old. They're about 4 years. There's 330 million people that speak English that are on the internet and 132, and I'd be shocked if that's not a lot higher now. Some online sales from 2018, we had 6.2 billion, and if you're watching this at a later time, it's probably going to be even more because the online sales portion is the only portion that has consistently grown every year since 2000. So that's, pretty impressive considering that in 2008 we had the Great Recession, which I like to say was a depression, but sometimes I wonder about government statistics. There are different types of sales. There's business to consumer, which is the one that we think of the most, and then business to employee or business to government, which is another huge factor, with government grants and paying for things, and then government to citizen, and then consumer to consumer like eBay, and then selling to businesses. There's basically three types of models that you're going to be playing with. There's what I like to call the Amazon model, which is selling a product, or another model is providing a service like LegalZoom or some form of consulting. But then the third one, which is the most, I like to call it the Facebook model, but Facebook, who knows how much longer they're going to be around. It's going to probably evolve. Social media groups come and go. That's been one of the true axioms of the internet. But it's giving a free product but selling access to your information. In other words, selling ads or the kind of demographic information that you provide, they turn around and sell it to different organizations. Help desk. This is one of the areas where they've cut costs by putting all their services online. Back in the old days, we used to have to call up a person, and let's say I had a printer that didn't work on my new operating system upgrade. I would call them, and then they say, "Yeah, we know that. Give us your address, and we'll send you a floppy disk in the mail." So, from the time I called, it could take anywhere for a week before I could utilize my device. Well, nowadays, I just go on the web, download it, and 30, 30 minutes at the most, I'm back to operations. So obviously it's giving a faster response, and the customer tends to be more happy because they can self-service. They don't have to wait around for people. It's also a great way of cutting costs because you don't need to man those desks. You don't need to send mail, snail mail as we like to call it. So it's a great way of keeping in touch and utilizing your resources. Now, market research. Oh my goodness, it's just amazing the information that they gather. And that goes back to that, model that I talked about, getting a free product, but you're essentially turning over all your background information, your friends' information too. And so they you can utilize that for research. And then they can also do statistics and gather information. Now, this is kind of a more important part, which is product positioning. When you have a person that becomes known as your brand, which Steve Jobs did when he was running Apple, when somebody like that is sick or dying, it can have a drastic effect on your company and on your stock prices. And so what they have to do is they have to utilize the internet to say everything's okay. Steve was a major part of our company, but there's other people just waiting in the wings to take over. Another example is when we had a dispute between Ford trucks and I can't remember. I want to say Michelin tires, And one company is pointing their finger at the other, saying, it's the tire's fault, and the tire company said, no, 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 it's the truck's fault because it's top heavy. And each presented their case on the internet and through advertisements, and lo and behold, none of the brands died. Another more recent example of that was, the battery problem that we had with the Samsung Note. I mean, I would have thought for sure that you would never see another Note, and it took about a year, but they were able to succeed in saving the brand name, saying it's a good product, it was just a fluke, and it won't happen again. Now, back in the old days when we had financial reports, we used to, if you owned stock in a company, even if you owned one piece of stock, you would get this really nice color brochure in the mail. It's a full color brochure that costs quite a bit of money to produce. And on top of that, there's the mailing costs. Well, nowadays, all you do is you get a postcard if you're lucky, or an email that basically says, here's our year end report, click on this link and go there. Another thing that's been real popular is generating buzz about new products or new companies. Um, a prime example of a project proposal is, hey, any new movie. I mean, I've been waiting for the new Avengers movie to come out, and I mean, I'm chomping at the bit, looking at the internet, watching the videos. It's just a great way of doing it. And then another one is fundraising. There's all these GoFundMe's sites or similar type sites. But the one that just impresses me the most was a fundraising that Apple did. This was right after 9/11 happened, and I went to the Apple site because I liked their design of their website, and all it had was a red ribbon, and it said it was more important to donate to the Red Cross today than it is to buy an Apple computer. And let me tell you, here it's been 18 years now, and I'm still talking about it. So that really had a good impression. It was being a good corporate citizen, in my opinion, and that's a rare thing nowadays. More corporations are interested in raising money or stock prices than they are anything else. And unfortunately, I'm starting to think that Apple's kind of leaning that way now too, but that's just my opinion. Oh, online banking is another opportunity. It's just amazing. Um, when I first started taking a poll, I was the only one doing online banking, and then just my recent one in my class in 2018, about half the people were using online banking, which is a significant increase from me being the only person. But it's a great way of getting money, managing resources real time, and getting loans. I mean, I did a loan online for a car. Didn't use it, but I did the whole loan and got a good price, and then the car deal fell through, but still, I was able to do it without stepping into a bank, which is kind of impressive. Another thing that the form of e-commerce is, if you have excess inventory, what you can do is you can sell it on eBay or Craigslist, or you know marketplaces for like Yahoo or Google. Now, another thing that's been real impressive that Steve Jobs and Bill Gates really kind of kicked it off was communications. Back in the old days, what would happen is, if Steve Jobs had a vision, he would tell his presidents, who would then tell their VPs, who would then tell their district managers, who would then tell the managers, and then it would filter down to us. Or he would tell the VP to make a video and do it. Well, now they directly address the customer in these year-end or bi-yearly events. So that was company to customer, company to vendor, or company to employee. And then another thing that's been a really good aspect of it is, there's some companies that are so big that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Well, this can be solved by putting up bulletin boards where companies know which areas of research that they're partaking in. Then another thing is document control. The one thing that I do is I file my taxes online. It saves me probably about 2, 3 weeks, and then I can stick that cash into the bank account instead of having them sit on it any longer than that. Well, nowadays, if somebody sends you something, you can track that document, or you can track the package online. It'll tell you exactly where it is. And a new feature that I can't remember which company what did it. I think it was Amazon, and I think it was the post office. They literally took a picture of where they left the package, so I could see where it was. That was kind of cool. And then on training, well, this is an example of an online training or a way of providing information that allows people to upgrade their skill set, so they can maintain usability in a changing workplace.